A few months ago, I created a YouTube video teaching people how to make a very simple responsive card. Now, there was a comment left on that video asking for a more detailed explanation. So what I'm gonna do today is teach you guys how to make a responsive element. So in my original video, which I will link for you to refer back to if you'd like to watch it, I was showing you how to make a component that had a responsive card inside of it. I showed you how you can set the different frames and dimensions so that they adjust according to what is happening with the outer container. And what that looks like over here is, we'll zoom in here and I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna extend the frame, and you'll see that the text field expands, the photo fills the container, and when I shrink it, the text field also moves along with the container and the image shrinks as well. So that is an example of a responsive card. Now what I want to show you is an example of how you can make an element responsive, but in a more real world example. So this is a UI challenge that I did where I was making a notifications feature, and the frame on the left is non-responsive. So when I extend the frame, nothing really happens. You'll notice that these elements are all sticky. They stayed the exact same. The only thing that really changed is the background image. So let me just undo. Now on the right side, I have made this responsive. So when I extend the frame, all the other elements move along with it. You'll see that this midsection here with the notifications fills the container, that this time section and the date section always stays centered, and that the elements at the top and at the bottom keep their distance from the border. So this is kind of like what it would look like in a phone, and you could guess that this would be more like what it would look like on a tablet. So this is a responsive design. And I'm gonna just show you what I did to make it that way. So the first thing that I want to note is that for this guy on the left, there is no auto layout. So I can move this around, and I can also move these guys around. There's no auto layout, whereas with this one, there is auto layout. And that's why I can just hit my top up arrow here and everything will adjust. I can move it back down and everything will adjust. That's how you know that something's in auto layout. And same goes for inside the body. This is also an auto layout. I can move the LinkedIn notification down, I can move it down again, or I can move it back up. But for this, I can't do that. If I use the up and down arrows, it's just gonna move my element up and down. So with that being said, let's start by putting everything into auto layout. So first, I am going to grab my frame and I'm gonna hit Shift A. And you'll notice that it put it into auto layout, but it kind of shifted everything around because now it's putting an equal spacing of, says 76, but that's not what I want. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that these three elements are grouped together. So I'm going to click Shift and I'm going to select all of these. And then I will hit Shift A again because I want to put these in auto layout together. And what I'm gonna do is adjust the spacing from the default 76 to 4. And now these guys are all in the middle, exactly what I want. Now something that happened was the frame shrunk because the space got minimized. And right now, I believe the frame is set to hug contents. We don't want that. We don't want the frame to shrink just because the contents inside is shrinking. So what we're gonna change this to is fixed height because we don't want it to move. So I'm gonna change it to fixed height and I'm going to bring it back to what this one is. So let's see, it was at 844. So let me change this height to 844. Okay, so now we're at the right height, but these elements are still too high up. And the reason for that is because if you look at this frame and you click on the 3 dots over here, it'll tell you how the spacing is set. And right now it's set to packed, right? So everything will move to one side. Now, what I would prefer to do is to actually put space between. So if you saw that graphic over here, it's gonna put space between. So it'll push everything to meet the limitations of the container. So when I click this, it should push these bottom elements down here. There we go. So it's down here. Now you're noticing this still looks a little funny, like why is it so close to the bottom? And that's because I need to add a little bit of space. So let me just check here what kind of spacing I have. And it looks like there's a spacing of 32 pixels on the top and 32 pixels on the bottom. So that's what I'm gonna do to this one. I'm going to change it from 0 from the top and bottom of my element to 32. And there we go. So now my element has some breathing room and it's not just glued to the bottom. Let's see, what other changes can I make? Let me adjust the frame and just see what's going on. So, okay, I am seeing that this middle element is not adjusting very well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change it from hug, because right now when it says that it's hugging, it means that this frame is gonna hug the element inside. So it's taking the width of this LinkedIn tile, this dribble tile, and this Slack tile. But I want it instead to fill. And what I mean by fill is instead of having this blue frame hugging these, I want this blue frame to fill the container. So this bigger, wider container. So I'm gonna click fill and it should widen, which it did. But you'll see that these individual tiles are not extending because look, they are set to a fixed width. So they're set to never adjust. So we're gonna change this to fill because we want it to fill the container that it's in. There we go, so this one's filling. And let's do that to all the others. Perfect. Now the only thing is you'll notice that there's not a lot of margin or breathing room on this as well. And we're gonna do something similar to what we did down here. So let me just see how much spacing I have. So it says on the sides that there is 24 pixels of horizontal spacing. So that's what I'm gonna do for this one. I want to have it so that although it will always fill its container, there will always be a margin of 24 pixels on both sides. So let's put 24, and there we go. Perfect. Let me just check everything else. Is there anything else I need to adjust? Yes, it looks like these two elements are stuck in the middle and they should be extending to be closer to the sides. And so that means that the width is fixed. So this element is fixed, so it won't change according to the size of the outer frame. So I'm going to, what's the answer? It is, I'm going to fill the container because I want this blue box to fill to the size of the phone frame container. Okay, so I've done that, but it still hasn't moved. And that's because you'll see the spacing here. It is set to 257. And remember these 3 dots, right? Packed. So it is set to packed. And what we want it to be set to is space between so that they get pushed apart. So they will fill the container, but still be pushed apart. And there we have it. And of course, same problem we had before is that it's pushing all the way to the edges of the frame, but we want to have a little bit of space. So what I'm going to do is add 24 pixels to the left and right. And there you go. And we have the exact same problem at the top. So I'll do it slowly so that you can try and guess as to what you should be setting it to. So first question would be, what do you think the horizontal spacing is set to as it is right now? The answer is fixed. So we're gonna change that to fill. And it's looking pretty good. Not sure if I need to make any other changes. Let me see. I'll just adjust. Yeah, it's looking good. Okay. The only other thing that I would change is, because I had made it so that the text only just showed a little bit and a dot, 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 you'll notice that the writing will not extend with the container, but that can be fixed by just doing an update like this. So I'll just copy and paste this, for example. Copy, paste, and if you can take a guess as to what this is set to, it is set right now to hug. So this text field, it goes out of the frame because it is hugging the contents within it. And so what we need to do is actually make it so that it fills, so that it will fill to the container. And once it fills to the container, the text will start to wrap. So we'll do that, and there you go, it starts to wrap. And let's try it again with this one. So I'll copy, I will paste, and again, this is set to hug, so it's hugging the contents, so it'll just move out of the frame. But what if we do fill, it'll fill to this container. And so let me click. There you go. One more. Okay, I've got 2 text fields here, so I'll get rid of that one. I'll paste this. Again, it is set to hug when we want it to fill the container, which is this container. So I'm gonna click fill, and there you go. So let's do some adjusting and see if the text goes along with everything. And it does. Beautiful. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that helps make the responsive design stuff make a bit more sense with the hugging and filling. If it's still confusing, definitely ping me and I can work on a better explanation. And of course, you can throw in componentizing into the mix, but if that's something that you really want to look into, I would just recommend you watch the other video, because I did talk about root components in that one. But this one is just more to explain how you can set everything so that things fill and hug in the way that you want. And one thing I didn't explain was this here. So I guess I could ask you, what do you think this container is set to make it so that this icon always stays on the right and that the LinkedIn information always stays on the left? So it's actually set to fill because this is the main container that it's in relation to, and we want it so that it fills up to here. But because there is a spacing of 16 pixels on each side, it doesn't touch the borders. Like if I changed this to 0, it would go to the border of the frame. But we obviously like a bit of air and space, so we have that. And how you get these things, items spread apart, remember, is space between. If we wanted them to be side by side, we would put packed, but we want it to be space between. Okay, hopefully that helps. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, and let me know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future. Bye.